I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today. Today, I want to talk about an important topic, and that's helping our business owner clients with their business transition. Especially, I want to talk about today, the 5 Ds of an unplanned business exit. We know a transition can be, planned ahead, retirement, and those types of things. But what happens when it's unplanned? And if you think about the transition of the business, why it's such an important topic, we're helping to protect, our business owner, the business itself, and the employees that are attached to this business. So failure to plan can affect a lot of people. So as we start looking at the business transition, one thing to remember, 100% of our business owners will exit from their business. At some point, either planned or unplanned, they're going to exit that business. 50% of transitions are involuntary. Those are forced exits. Something's happened in their life that's forced them to exit that business. As you look at other statistics that are important, 80 to 90% of the owner's wealth is tied up in the value of that business. So when you're talking about doing estate planning, income planning for retirement, remember 80 to 90% of the business owner's wealth is in the business itself. So if we don't plan for the business transition, we potentially could lose that value. 60% of owners don't understand their exit options. They don't know what options exist. And that's our job as advisors, is to help them understand that. And what's interesting here, 80% have never engaged or formed a transition advisory team. They don't have the people around them that can help them understand what those options are. And we know as advisors, it takes a team to make sure that business transition happens properly. I think this is an interesting statistic. 75% of owners regret selling their business 1 year after selling it. Now, I've worked with a lot of business owners, and it takes a while for them to realize it's time to leave their business in retirement. But it's also one of those, if they're forced out of the business, they're going to regret doing that. So we need to help them with that planning. But 40% of the owners want to sell within the next 5 years. So when you're talking a group of people that are great potential clients, this is the group. So now if we start looking at this, the 5 Ds of an unplanned business exit, what are they? Well, first of all, we have death. What if one of our business owner clients dies? So think about this. If you have, let's just keep it simple. We have two business owners, two partners. One of them passes away. Now, what happens to the business? Well, if we have a buy-sell agreement, we've accounted for that. We know how the transition is going to happen. Hopefully, we've bought life insurance to cover the buyout, so we've protected both the owner's family that's passed away. But we also have protected the owner that is remaining and helped leverage the buyout so that they've got the funds to buy that. If you don't have this planned for, now the owner that is remaining, one, has to run that business and now has to do 100% of the work, potentially with only 50% of the profit. And I've seen clients, that I've worked with after this has happened. And that's realistic, that the client that's remained, the owner, is working to support both families and only receiving 50% of the compensation. So death can be a significant, issue with an unplanned exit. One that I think is harder is a disability. So think about this. You've got there again, two business owners. One of the business owners gets, let's just say, dementia, and can no longer perform any activities in support of that business. Well, if it's a 50-50 partnership and it takes a majority to change, well, no change. And I've seen this happen with clients. We were working with a client in California years ago where one of the partners had dementia, 50-50 S corporation. They could not vote to dissolve the company. They couldn't vote to do anything because it takes a majority vote. And the wife of the partner with dementia needed the money to pay for those long-term care bills. So she had no interest in selling. She was receiving 50% of the profits, but there again, nobody was doing that extra 50% of the work. It was all left on the well partner to do 100% of the work for only 50% of the profit. So this is an area where we can get disability buyout. Maybe, we can get a life insurance policy to handle the death and have a long-term care or disability rider that might help, offset some of those costs of buyouts. There's opportunities to plan here. It just takes some thinking and some effort to make sure we cover that. Another one of the D's is divorce. If you're a partner in a business, do you want to be in business with your partner's now ex-spouse? So if you don't have a properly designed buy-sell agreement and your partner gets a divorce, and in that divorce decree, the ex-spouse receives some or all of that ownership interest in the business, you're now in business with your partner's ex-spouse. Is that in the best interest of your ownership? Is that in the best interest of the business? If you think about this, there's an easy solution here that just says, if you have a buy-sell agreement and the ex-spouse receives any ownership in that divorce, that part of the business ownership is immediately bought out. There again, the ex-spouse probably doesn't want to be part of the business, but wants the value of it as part of the divorce settlement. So that becomes something that we just need to address. Something that is a big issue. What happens if there's a disagreement among the owners? Now, if you think about this, how do you break a stalemate? Especially, I come back to a 50-50 ownership because I think that just creates so many problems. If you have a 50-50 corporation and it takes a majority to vote, and if you only have two partners, that's not majority, that's unanimous. How do you break a stalemate? And that could be, think about the situations. We need to infuse capital into the business, or we need to, diversify our operations. If any of those disagreements affect the business substantially, you could end up losing the business over a disagreement. And there again, if you've got to address this in a way that allows the company to thrive and help your clients understand, yeah, you might be in a 50-50 arrangement. How do you break a stalemate? Because most corporate law is designed to say, if you can't break a stalemate, you continue with the status quo. Well, the status quo may not be good for your business. So there again, it forces an unplanned exit from the business. Somebody just gets upset and leaves. There again, what is it that we need to do to protect the business, the employees, and the owners of our business? Finally, we see, what if there's distress? And what I mean by distress, think about let's go back to the COVID years. The COVID years, really brought out a lot of issues. A lot of it had to do with not being able to work, a change in our business availability, governmental regulations, the need for cash flow. All of those things were exposed, especially, I look at 2008, those years, and the COVID years, because it forced companies to reevaluate what they're doing. It forced companies to look at, can we survive? How many could have ever envisioned a point during those COVID years where the government's saying, you need to keep paying your employees, we're just not going to allow you to work? So how do we handle that when there's a distress in the business or there's a disagreement? How do we overcome that to make sure the company can survive? So when we think about this, and we'll talk about this in some of our next few conversations, but we have tools to address these problems. And you as an advisor, think about filling up your toolbox with solutions to go to your business owner clients to help address these kind of needs. But the first thing is identification, helping your business owners identify the problem, then helping them understand their solutions. So I appreciate everybody being on. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll talk again next time. Thank you.